Our next film is going to be Babylon, which is directed by Damien Chazelle. Damien Chazelle, who people know, who did Whiplash, which kind of really, that was kind of his big breakout movie that he did. Got an Oscar win for J.K. Simmons. Then he moved on from doing Whiplash to do La La Land, which I still haven't seen La La Land, by the way, which stars Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone.
You don't need to. You don't need to.
Which stars the two of them. Here he has this movie Babylon, which stars a nice cast. You have Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, Diego Hernandez, who star here. And it's telling the story about the late 1920s of Hollywood, which is leaving the silent era and going into the talkie era. So this kind of movie takes place during the late 1920s and then early 30s. Kind of the transition that was there. People, the business changing in Hollywood from that transition of from silent film to talkies. And a lot of crazy kind of excess that happens, in Hollywood, the debauchery, the kind of the absolute craziness that kind of goes on there that you see. Brad Pitt, who is in this movie, he plays a character named Jack, who's an aging movie star. Not much of a stretch for Brad Pitt, but hey, we're here. You have Margot Robbie, who's the big upstart here, who's the new rising star, but maybe she missed her window. You have Diego Hernandez, who plays Manny, who is working his way up. He's enamored with film, absolutely loves film, and is trying to really work his way up in the business in order to, kind of be more a part of movie making. You also have a character named Sydney, who's a jazz trumpet player who kind of represents the progress of kind of maybe what was going on in Hollywood at the time, putting more black faces, on screen and more of in a more of a prominent role. His name is Jovan Ediptu. I believe is how you pronounce his last name. So he's in there. Because of course, any Damien Chazelle movie, you're gonna have jazz. I mean, you gotta have jazz, right? This dude is in love with jazz. So you're gonna have that there. So you're gonna have a lot of shots in the movie of like the camera zooming out from the trumpet. Like I don't know how many. Like I think if you take a drink every time there's that shot in the movie, you'd probably be hungover probably by the end of this movie, if you kind of did that. So I'm gonna let you kind of guys go first, and I'm gonna get my thoughts on it. Hunter, what were your thoughts on Babylon?
What a self-indulgent piece of shit. That's my thoughts on this. Look, y'all. This is just one of those Hollywood being about Hollywood movies, and I'm saying this a lot about movies this year. Why is this shit 3 hours? It's over 3 hours. Why is it this long? It doesn't need to be. And man, like I watched this at home. If I'd seen this in a theater, I would have been pissed off. Because I started the movie. I'm like, all right, this will probably be 2.5 hours. And I saw the 3. I'm like, oh man, I hope my eyesight's going out because if this is over 3 hours, I'm gonna be fucking mad. And yeah, over 3 hours, and it starts with this elephant shitting on a bunch of people, which I just went, oh cool, we're setting the bar real high to just go ahead and it. What's so frustrating about this movie is that there's some good stuff in it. Like Brad Pitt's Brad Pitt. I feel like Brad Pitt could be on Ambien and still give a great performance. That's just how great he is. And he's great in this role. But you don't really everyone kind of represents tropes. You don't really get to learn a lot about them. And that's kind of my biggest issue with the movie. I'm happy Margot Robbie got something to do in this movie, unlike in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is like way closer to this role than it really probably fucking should be. But Margot Robbie's Margot Robbie. She's actually good in this, and seeing her spiral, considering where she kind of starts off from, it's really quite fascinating. And we were talking about it with that dumbass rapper. this is why you need to have a good inner circle of people working with you, because her dad, and I'm blanking on the guy, Eric Roberts. God, I should
Yeah.
have known that quicker. But see, like even her dad is so quick to be like, "Oh yeah, like my daughter's a star. I have an idea for this restaurant." And it's like, this is how it goes. As soon as you get a little money, you got the fam trying to go ahead and cash in on it. Like you need to be careful on that shit. And so it is these tropes. I thought Diego Calvo, I think that's how you say it, who
Yeah.
played Manny, he was the guy I was the most interested in. His story is actually really engaging as far as him starting from the bottom. Now he's here, as it were. I actually really liked his arc, but the thing is that everyone takes their turn to being shittier. Like the way it's done, like it doesn't feel like there's a progression to it. It just all kind of happens for everyone at once. So it's like, so there's that point where like, who am I supposed to connect to? Because there's this point kind of early on, for given where he started from, that Manny just becomes a piece of shit. And I just went, oh wow, well you were the one I was connected to. Oh, so it's not you anymore. Okay, so who do I connect to? Oh, no one. Cool. And so you're just kind of waiting for the ride to be over. And just when you think it's over, there's this whole subplot about going to this like weird ass cavern where Toby Maguire's there, and I'm like, oh god damn it, this movie's still going. Like, and there's really no reason for that whole scene outside of showing an alligator. So I found myself really frustrated because there's stuff about this I like, but there felt like there was just a lot of like debauchery for the sake of it, and really not because it actually was lending itself in the film. Yeah, there.
Uh, Chris.
Um, I do feel very similarly to Hunter. Because of his last three films, I hold Damien Chazelle at a pretty high standard. I really enjoyed uh, um, Whiplash. I like musicals, so I liked the first half of La La Land before it stopped being a musical. Um, and First Man kind of came and went. I enjoyed it. It was,
It's good.
uh, it was a quiet, contained film, and Ryan Gosling gave another quiet, contained, but still visceral performance. I liked the Hollywood moment, of him bringing his daughter's toy to the moon. I don't think that actually happened, but it was a really sweet Hollywood moment. Um, so I was nervous that this movie was 3 hours long because I didn't know if it needed to be, and it doesn't need to be. There's so much of this film that could be taken out. This movie could easily be 2 hours, just 2 hours.
210 if you need it.
But 210. But the first half is just parties, the Roaring Twenties, and the chaos of a 1920s film set. And again, agreeing with Hunter, by the time Giselle pivots and decides to focus on the characters, it's kind of too late. We're already an hour and a half into the movie, and now you want to introduce these characters and have us care about their journey and where they're going, and it's kind of too late. Like I missed the chance to form that connection. Now I'm just kind of along for a ride that could end at any moment in the third act, but it just keeps going. Um, this film overall was disappointing because I love Giselle's previous work, um, and I do compare him a lot to Ryan Coogler because they're very similar age, and they made some pretty strong films for directors to be their age. Like Damien Chazelle, La La Land won the Oscar, and he's like the youngest director to ever win.
Hmm.
So that comes with a lot of expectations and eyes. So a lot of eyes are on this movie, and it didn't quite hit the Chazelle standard that I'm used to seeing. like Hunter said, it starts with the elephant poop, and then it continues with some guy getting peed on by a model. Like it's it's rough, and it is over embellished. It is gratuitous. A lot of it is just to be. There's no real substance behind it. Um, that first sequence of Margot Robbie dancing in the trailer, I was like, oh man, like this is gonna be a great choreographed dance, and Margot Robbie's gonna kill it. I'm watching the movie, I was like, oh, she's kind of doing the white girl thing with this kind of flail to the music.
If you dropped it low, give her respect.
So a little bit. She was doing a little something, but overall, I wanted more from Babylon, and I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Josh, real quick before you go, I just realized what it is that kind of just made me go, God, I kind of don't like this. This is like the same feeling I had when I saw Being the Ricardos, and I was just like, why does this movie exist? Like, this feels like the most Oscar baity.
Well, what movie?
Like that, Being the Ricardos.
Oh, okay. That about yeah. Lucille Ball and
like, there's some really, like there's some really good performances in that. But at the end of the day, I went, this is over 2 hours, and there's no reason it needs to be. And this is just, it's frustrating too, because there is good, like some of the cinematography in here is genuinely beautiful. Some of the set design is great, and there are some moments where I actually did laugh out loud. But it's just, but man, like you can watch Hail Caesar and kind of get the same thing, and it's like 2 hours flat. So
yeah.
You can kind of watch Hail Caesar.
Yeah. As Hunter mentioned, I mean, this is a movie that is very self-indulgent. It is again a movie about how great Hollywood is. You know what I mean? Isn't Hollywood great, and isn't Hollywood great in all that it can do? And like, if the love of cinema, and if I wanted to see a movie about the love of cinema that came out this year, I would just go watch The Fabelmans. I don't have to, you know what I mean? That's probably the better option. I'll just watch that. And them doing, I mean, this movie is extremely repetitive, because you show a scene with them partying, and then you see all this excess, and people doing cocaine off of people's titties, and fucking everywhere, and all this crazy stuff, and then they go to shooting a movie, and you see all the chaos that it took to shoot a movie. But in the midst of all this chaos, there's this gorgeous, beautiful moment where you capture this perfect moment on film. And so I guess it's supposed to show that amongst all this chaos and destruction, like this is worth it. And it's just like it's extremely repetitive in that sense of showing them shooting, then showing a party, then they'll showing them shooting on set, then showing another party. Like it's that way, like numerous times throughout the movie for this runtime, that it doesn't deserve this 3-hour runtime. The humor in the movie, I mean, people in my theater, they were having a good time, they were laughing. I laughed at some moments in the movie as well. There was some, I think, okay comedy moments in it. Overall, I mean, I think they just don't work. Like the elephant scene, or there's a scene where Margot Robbie, she's projectile vomiting. That doesn't work at all for me. You know what I mean? That just doesn't work at all. I just is like, a lot of stuff like that just feels like this is like, just doesn't even feel like it should be a part of this movie. The performances here, you have Margot Robbie, who's playing this very eccentric kind of character. It's almost like she's kind of like this very like Harley Quinn-esque type kind of person, a very big kind of personality. And it feels like if you just focused on maybe one or two people, maybe you could have done better, instead of trying to do, because they basically try to do four people. They try to do Margot Robbie, they try to do Brad Pitt, they try to do the Manny character, the Diego Calva playing Manny, and they try to do the jazz player. The jazz player, he gets the least amount. He's a huge afterthought throughout this movie. And then amongst these parties, they try to do some character building with them, like with like the Brad Pitt character, the Margot, like to get to them more, know them as people, like just through these parties and everything like that. That seems like the only purpose for them, because once you see one or two, it's like, okay, I don't really need to keep seeing all these different parties. Like, okay, I'm kind of done with this now. And like I said, like it looks good. Some of the performances are good. Brad Pitt, I mean, he could play an aging movie star. He could do that in his sleep. You don't really need to, that's fine. And I was, like I said, I think the most interesting story is the story with the Manny character, him rising through the ranks of him being like at first like this fixer guy to being to kind of rising up and getting more better positions there. I thought that was kind of interesting. But again, a lot of that stuff is done in such a way that's kind of like, I mean, it just happens so quickly. It's like, it's like if you just narrowed in on maybe some things, like, just focused on just maybe Manny and Margot Robbie's character. Her character was Leroy, Nellie Leroy. If you just maybe just did that, maybe that would have been better instead of trying to include all these other kind of other different characters and all these other different elements. Maybe that would have been better. What do you think, Hunter?
Yeah, like okay. I agree that the Black Trumpet Player's arc was actually really interesting, and I was like, man, I would like more of this shit. And they literally write him out of the movie. Like something happens, and they're like, all right, well, like exit stage left. It's like, well, fuck, all right. And like, so I was like, oh, the one character I was connect. All right, sweet. And yeah, I think if you had shortened the scope to three characters, um, I think you could have used Pitt's character less, honestly, because is like, you can have him in the scenes where he's acting and all that, but one of the running jokes is that he just keeps getting divorced and getting remarried, and it's just a joke that doesn't really do anything until like the last woman he's married to, because she's just like theater, like this big ass theater snob, and I kind of wish we would have brushed through the other couple marriages just to get to her, because one of the better scenes in the movie is him talking about like what cinema means versus theater, and kind of checking her, and I went, oh, this is a legit inspired scene. I actually like this. But then they don't ever really go back to her, and so the scene loses weight because there's no retort. And I went, well, I was like, well, god damn it, movie, like, can you please, like, like connect some of these goddamn dots? I'll be a fucking pig here for a moment. So unlike me. There's this point where Margot Robbie makes out with the chick in the movie. That's the most joy I got this whole movie. I was like, hooray, that was cool. It's like 20 seconds of awesome. But that actress, Lee Jun Lee, I hope this is something for her moving forward, because she's actually really good in limited spots she gets. I really like the charisma that she brought. She has an actual screen presence to her. There's this insane scene with a snake, and she just goes beast mode in a way that I went, all right, girl, that's badass. But even the way she like works the rooms and stuff at these parties, you're drawn to her, not just because of her style and everything, but the way she carries herself in these scenes without having a ton of dialogue. Like, she could be something. So I'm definitely keeping an eye out on her. I really liked what she was given to work with here. And there's this scene about movie stars and cockroaches and like tabloids. That's actually a really well done scene. As far as kind of the back and forth dialogue there. But I just, yeah, the Fablemans has a lot more to say about cinema in Hollywood than this does, and we already talked about it. You can watch Hail Caesar and really kind of get the same um, result. Even a movie I'm not crazy about because it's also too long. In a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that only really focuses on two people, and the movie does flow better uh, for it. Um, Again, I'm not crazy about the movie, but I think it's a well done film, and it's damn sure better than this. I was just disappointed, honestly, because this was so talked up, and this was nominated for a Golden Globe. for what that's worth. For like best drama or whatever, and it's like they're clearly pushing this as an Oscar contender, and I just, yeah, I don't see how. Like I wouldn't nominate anybody from this from this movie for anything. Honestly, like cinematography and the score. That is one thing I'll say. The score is really good. I can't give the movie that. You get to see this like all black jazz band, um, and like the scenes that they're in, their shit's badass. Like I was like, okay, brothers, like go ahead. That was one of the few times I was really engaged, but this is just kind of it's cotton candy. It's pretty to look at, but it's very hollow at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, this movie is an assault on the senses. I mean, in every sense of the word. Like, you know what I mean? It's just everything about it. And I mean, you talk about like it just keeps going. I mean, people always talk about Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, like how that movie has all these endings. This movie has like 8, 10 endings where you think it's about to end, then it keeps going, then it keeps going again, then it keeps going. And up until the point of the end of this movie, where it's almost like a YouTube compilation of movies throughout history, and it's like, what the hell is this? And it's like they really have to like hammer home the point, like this is what this movie is about. It is about the love of movies and cinema, and it's like, oh my, like I don't need you to really hammer home that point. Like I get it, I get what this is about. And as somebody who like, yeah, I mean, I love movies. I talk about movies, but damn, I mean, okay, bro, I don't need to see a whole 3-hour movie about what I mean about that. That's fine. So for me, I'd give it a skip it. I'd give it a skip it. I think some of the performances and the cinematography, maybe a little bit of the soundtrack score is keeping it away from a waste of fucking film. Because I was getting annoyed how they played that, like that. What was that, like that dun 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 dun, dun like kind of like they kind of played that throughout. I was kind of getting sick of that shit. So for me, I just kind of give it a skip it for me. Chris, what about you?
Yeah, I was disappointed. It's way too long. Um, I totally missed the point of having the trumpet player put on the shoe polish to make himself darker.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was. What was that about? I don't know what that was. I don't know what that was for. Um, in the third act, when Margot Robbie leaves the car and walks off into the darkness, I thought the movie was gonna end there. Ended there. It's fine. Like
Yeah.
it keeps going. Or when Manny has a wife and kid and goes back to the lot and says, "Hey, I used to work here," end the movie there. End it there. It's a full arc, but um, I would say I did see it in theaters. I sat through it.
Damn.
I would say to anyone else, don't wait for it to be on streaming. So skip it in theaters, watch it on streaming if you have time.
All right. Hunter.
Yeah, I'm. Oh man, yeah, this is kind of like a highbrow attempt of like Tim and Eric Awesome Show. Like this is just kind of like it's on that level of just kind of pandering. Where I go, like, all right, Hollywood. There's always one of these movies a year. And this is just like the bottom of the barrel for it. And honestly, for like, it reminds me of stuff like Tenet and stuff where I go like, man, for the budget you have and for the talent you have, this should not be this bad. Like there's really no fucking excuse. And if you're the director and you can't write a script engaging, then you need to get someone else to help you on the fucking writing. And for this to be like that's been one of my things with these Oscar movies I'm watching is that some of these bitches are over 2.5 hours. I'm like, it doesn't need to be. You could cut 30 minutes from this so easily if not 45. Like you could get this down to 2 hours 10 minutes, easy. I did like some of the performances. Like I said, Brad Pitt is so goddamn charming. It's really unfair. And him, quote aging, like he could still go like pull anyone he wants because it's Brad fucking Pitt. Margot Robbie, second miss in the year, girl. Like I like Margot Robbie, like Harley Quinn fantasies aside, I really like Margot Robbie just off of I, Tonya alone. But like,
What was her other movie this year?
like Amsterdam.
Oh, Amsterdam. She was
Which
in it?
also,
Oh, yeah,
which also wasn't great. So it's like, girl, I don't know who your Asian is. Like, I know you got Harley Quinn, and
I mean,
rooting for Gotham City Sirens, but
on paper, I could see like this. They both of those look like good movies on paper. I could see her picking them because, like, hey, you got Damien Chazelle.
oh yeah,
Hey, you got David Russell. I mean,
yeah.
on paper, I could see it.
Oh no, absolutely. Like, I don't begrudge her because I'm sure, like, if someone tells you, hey, I got you new David O. Russell, outside of him being a monster, you'd be like, oh shit, that's so cool. Like you'd be excited. So like, I get it on paper to your point, but like, how many great sports teams have looked great on paper? You gotta fucking execute, and it's just this was not executed well. Um, this is like the lowest stream it I think I'll ever give. Like it's so goddamn close to a skip it. Like it's so close. But there's, like I said, there are a couple performances. As I mentioned, I do hope this is a launching pad for Lee Jun Lee. I hope someone takes a chance on her, gives her a bigger platform, and goes like, you were good in this. And the guy who played Manny, I really like him. Like this movie's not devoid of good shit, but my god, like 3 hours long. It's too goddamn long. Like Fablemans, I think it's 2 hours 30 minutes, and that shit flew by for me. Like I was watching the Fablemans, I'm like, this is well paced, and I'm engaged with the characters, and oh my god, the dialogue and the character drama, like it's so great, and it's the exact opposite of what this is. So, um, yeah, yeah, low stream.
Yeah. And Chris, what did you give it? I think what did you give Babylon? What was your rating?
My rating was skip it in theaters, stream it at home.
Okay. All right. So that was yeah, ratings for Babylon.